What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video we are kicking off the new year with a bang, quite literally, as I'm going to be showcasing Blacephalon with its brand new charge attack Mind Blown, which is a 35 energy charge attack, and it deals an insane 90 damage, but at the cost of dropping its own defense by 4 stages, which if you're unfamiliar with this Pokemon, it already doesn't have any defense, so that defense drop is quite a crazy thing, but it's actually now the #1 highest attack Pokemon on PvPoke, only because prior to this move being released, I guess PvPoke considered it to have such bad stats that it didn't even bother giving it a ranking. Anyways, I'm sure you've seen some mind-blown Blacephalon gameplay already by now. I am a few days late to showcase it, but I'm actually quite surprised that so many other creators have showcased this Pokemon since it is such an insane glass cannon, but we're not going down the easy route and pairing it with 2 tanks that can basically just sponge all the damage and allow Blacephalon to sweep in the end game with a shield advantage. Instead, I'm going to be pairing it with 2 other insane glass cannons that have all received a double buff this season. Now, for any regular viewers of the channel, this is actually the exact same team I showcased as my first video of this season, where I mentioned in that video Blacephalon definitely felt like the weak link. So let's see how much it has improved in these battles. Now, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favorite Ultra Beast in Pokemon Go? And if it's not Blacephalon, what stats would you like to see for its signature move? Let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Kartana into Empoleon. So a fairly positive matchup for me, of course. I'm going to resist the fast move damage. They are also resisting Fury Cutters, but I can outpace to a Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to do huge damage there. Unfortunately, not quite enough damage to get the full-on one-shot. So I'm going to shield the Drill Peck, and the opponent swaps into a Shadow Sableye. Now, this is a little bit tricky for me. I do have the energy advantage here, so I will stay in, fire off the Leaf Blade, and then swap into my Hisuian Zoroark. The opponent makes a huge mistake, farming up to back-to-back charge moves before going for the foul play, meaning I'm able to win CMP. And at this point, I might as well just no-shield this. They have a second move already loaded. Save that shield there for later. At this point, I'm also going to come in with my Kartana, realizing they can farm me down, but with the Fury Cutter damage, I think I've just put them into 1 Incinerate farm down range. I shield there. Incinerate does get the KO. They come in with a Shadow Galarian Wheezing, but I'm already at the Mind Blown. Mind Blown gets the one-shot. We can just Incinerate farm down Empoleon, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG to opponent there, into the next battle, Nightmare lead as we see a Talonflame. So I'm going to swap out after throwing a few Fury Cutters, then swapping into Hisuian Zoroark, and I can still outpace them to a foul play. However, the opponent, if they commit to a full farm down, I'm not even going to reach a second charge move. That is incredibly problematic for me. But at this point, they've got a lot of energy, but we can come in with Blacephalon. They're actually going to bank the energy and swap into Greninja. I'm going straight for Mind Blown here. Mind Blown, big damage. We're able to snipe with the Kartana, and we're also able to reach a Sacred Sword here before the opponent ends up throwing a charge move. The opponent is going to end up throwing a charge move anyway, so that's perfectly fine with me. Flame Charge gets the KO. They boost up their attack stat. They were at 100 energy, but at this point, I can just use my shield here, commit to a full Incinerate farm down, and what do they have in the back? It's going to be a Raichu, and I'm just barely able to live the Volt Switch damage. Full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there, into the next battle. We see Guzzlord in the lead. So this is definitely a great matchup and where I want to see it. The opponent is eventually going to swap out into a Crocodile. I come in with my Hisuian Zoroark, and unfortunately, I don't have a great response here. They will be able to flip switch advantage if they really want it. And again, another Pokemon just fully Incinerate farming me down there, not allowing Zoroark to even reach 2 charge moves, which is unfortunate. I come in with Blacephalon, but we miss out on a full Incinerate. That is going to be really bad for me because now we also can't even CMP tie them. And remember, Guzzlord has a charge move loaded, so I assume they're probably going to swap out there, but just in case they didn't, I did another swap into my Kartana, and then of course take the Incinerate damage. So what I do instead, I go for Mind Blown. It gets the it gets big damage off. We now come in with the Kartana, and you can see if we just landed a single Incinerate into the Crocodile, I wouldn't have had to throw the charge move there. I could have fully farmed them down. We end up going down to a single Incinerate. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. Now, I don't know what they had in the back, but I feel like possibly we could have won that if we just got that 1 extra move through, which we should have been able to do. But anyways, into the next battle, we're going to see Primeape in the lead. I say swap into Zoroark. They stay in for quite a while there before swapping into Corviknight. And at this point, I am actually going to no-shield this. Just an Air Cutter, and I'm actually able to reach a foul play. Foul play is going to be no shielded by the opponent. They're going to come back in with the Primate. They do have quite a lot of energy, so I'm probably going to have to double shield if I commit to a full Incinerate farm down here. They go for the first Rage Fist. They go for the second one. And at this point, I'm definitely double shielding. I can go for that Incinerate farm down. Of course, they're double boosted, but Karate Chops don't deal that much damage. They're going to come in with their final Pokemon, which is going to be a Celio. We go straight for Mind Blow. That does huge damage. I swap into Kartana. Now, I should be resisting the charge moves. They go for Surf, which is Stab. It does more damage than Body Slam, but I'm able to Fury Cut to farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Clefable in the lead. So, this is a pretty good matchup for me. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Spiritomb. So, I'm going to stay in this matchup once again. Going to go straight for the Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is going to be shielded, unfortunately. But I can reach another Leaf Blade before they fully farm me down. Now, I believe, of course, Blacephalon and Zoroark both going to take big damage from these Sucker Punches here. However, Blacephalon going to do slightly more damage with the Incinerate. Still not enough to fully farm them down, so I will have to full send a Mind Blown here. Mind Blown gets the KO. I swap straight away into Zoroark, but they've got a second Sucker Punch user in the back. There's literally nothing I can do there, and so unfortunately, I am forced to concede the match. But GG's to our trainer into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead, which you think is a good matchup for us, but they can probably just shield once, fully farm me down, except they don't shield, but they come in with a second Mudslapper. What on earth is this team? And I have to say, like, the meta right now just feels so strange. Like, some of the most random teams basically just put together 3 random Pokemon that have some sort of fast move pressure, like Mudslappers, like Bastiodon, like, I don't know, a Wigglytuff, and then just call it a day there. Don't really have to put too much thought into the teams. A bit frustrating, but the opponent committing to a farm down there, not realizing I'm going to get to a second foul play, get the KO, and their final Pokemon gonna be Credilli. Now, I could have gone straight for Mind Blown there. Of course, go for it before they debuff my attack stat, but either way, it doesn't really matter. I still have that shield. We farm up to back-to-back. I think Shadow Ball probably just barely KOs here. Mind Blown doesn't get the KO there, but I wanted to try it out anyways. Second Mind Blown coming through, takes out Credilli, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Kartana into Bastiodon. So this is going to be a great matchup actually for me because I am resisting the fast move damage. Of course, Flamethrower is going to hit for double super effective. I will certainly need to shield that, but we can actually outpace them to 2 Sacred Swords before they even get there. So Sacred Sword number 2 is going to grab a shield from the opponent. This one, I'm going to shield. I do have to be wary of a potential catch, but they swap into Azumarill, which is absolutely fine with me. We can go straight for Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is going to deal huge damage, and we can reach yet another Leaf Blade before they bubble farm me down. At this point, we put them into range where I can just shield once with the Zoroark and go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. The opponent goes for the Ice Beam. They're hoping to reach another move, but they're not going to get there in time. We get the full farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent comes in with a Gastrodon. I wait for the opponent to swap back into Bastiodon. We can go straight for Foul Play here. Foul Play gets the KO, and now we're just one away from the Shadow Ball. We are full sending it. Shadow Ball, huge damage there. We can Shadow Claw farm them down. I didn't even need Blacephalon for that battle, although it was actually weak to the entire team there. So quite good that we didn't need it because it would have absolutely sucked. But into the next battle, GG's to our trainer, by the way. Going to see a Shadow Marwar in the lead. Now, we are going to be able to outpace him to a Sacred Sword here, and then I might actually swap out of this matchup. I'm going to swap here just because I want some fast move pressure into this Pokemon. The opponent is going to farm up and go for the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to hit for huge damage up against the Zoroark. I felt like this was a little bit too quick here, and it was just a Vice Grip bait there, so definitely shouldn't have shielded, but we can go for Foul Play. Foul Play will get the KO from this range. They actually end up shielding, so I'm just going to fire off the next Foul Play straight away. Foul Play gets the KO, but they come in with a Shadow Salamence, and unfortunately they can outpace me now as I was way too slow to swap out there and react in time. And yeah, we don't get to the Foul Play there either. We can come in with Blacephalon. They outpace me here as well. And honestly, Shadow Salamence, such a spicy pick there. Completely destroyed the entire team. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's, fair play to that opponent for running such a spicy Pokemon. Into the next battle, we see Furret. Their opponent's going to safe swap into Primeape. And this is basically one of the only matchups where I don't need to shield my Zoroark just because Rage Fist is resisted. However, in saying that, look at the damage I'm taking from resisted Karate Chops here. If they want to, they can shield. They can win this matchup. But I'm actually pretty happy getting a shield advantage. So at this point, I'm going to come in with my Blacephalon. However, unfortunately, they will still reach a Rage Fist just barely. Maybe could have swapped into Kartana there. But either way, they goes for Rage Fist. We are going to see the... well, they make a catch onto Typhlosion. That is not ideal for me. But Mind Blown still does huge damage. And it actually puts them into Fury Cutter farm down range. That actually ends up working out perfectly for me. Because now we can go for Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword does huge damage. We would have got to another one there, which is why they no shield. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, another Bastiodon in the lead. So once again, great lead matchup, great to see it here as well, obviously avoiding having it against my Blacephalon. And again, we can go for a Sacred Sword, and if they shield this, well, we can go for a second Sacred Sword straight away. We're still outpacing them before they reach that first Flamethrower. Sacred Sword is going to connect this time around. I'm also going to match shield. Once again, I do need to be wary of a potential catch, or just a snipe from far superior pressure from the opponent. But nope, neither of those things we are going to see. So, going to go for another Sacred Sword. The opponent is going to double shield Bastiodon, but we're still able to reach another Sacred Sword here. So we grab both shields, we get the KO with the Sacred Sword, and they come in with a Ferrothorn. So of course, I'm going to come in with Blacephalon, Incinerate, dealing huge damage there. We can just safely shield this up here. The opponent very likely going to swap out of this matchup now. They swap into a Azumarill. I bank a Shadow Ball. However, I realize I'm not going to reach a Shadow Ball on my Zoroark. So instead, I throw the Foul Play on CMP, winning CMP, and that just puts them into range where Shadow Ball from Blacephalon will get the KO. So here, we're going to come in. We might as well go for one Incinerate first. Full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball coming through, gets the one shot. And of course, one more Incinerate takes out that Ferrothorn. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle. We see Fearow in the lead. Bit of a tricky matchup for me, but we can stay in, as of course I am a Grass and Steel type Pokemon. I'm taking neutral damage. We go for Sacred Sword, and that does honestly respectable damage there. At this point, I probably, well, actually no, never mind. I'm going to shield this, as I realize I can Fury Cut to farm them all the way down. That is huge for me. And they come in with a second flying and normal type Pokemon in 2 cannon. That is a very interesting team composition so far, but at this point, I'm just going to shield this, and let's see what their final Pokemon is. They are going to have a Miltank in the back, so this is where things get a bit tricky for me. I should just barely live a Charge Move here. The opponent is going to full send a Thunderbolt, and we can reach a Foul Play. Now, if I'm able to grab the the first shield here, I should be able to win this, but no, they do correctly no shield that. We're at back-to-back Mind Blowns, but it doesn't matter. The opponent does now have the energy for a Body Slam or potentially even a Thunderbolt at this point. So at this point, I didn't bother throwing. They still had a shield. Thunderbolt easily gets the KO there. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But strange team there into the next battle. GG's, by the way, to that trainer. We're going to see a Talonflame. So once again, swapping into Zoroark and going straight for the Foul Play. Foul Play is going to be shielded, and the opponent is actually going to throw straight away here. So if they don't go for a Flame Charge, if they go for Fly, I'd probably live the Incinerate damage. So they swap out, but they swap into Ludicolo, where I am resisting the fast move damage. So we go for Shadow Ball. We grab the final shield. And let's see what the opponent wants to do here. We're going to come in with Kartana, of course. The opponent is over-farming, but they allow me to reach a Sacred Sword. They probably forgot we over-farmed a little bit before swapping out. So we get the KO. We swap into Blacephalon, and we still have a shield here. So the opponent is going to fire the Charge Move. They full send a Brave Bird, and that's going to allow a full Incinerate farm down. They're going to have a Licky in the back here. And of course, as long as we can live one rollout, we can get off back-to-back Mind Blowns. The first one does huge damage. Second one will be enough to take out the Licky, and I'm able to take that game. So So, GG's up on their next battle. I'm going to see a Charger Bug in the lead. So, of course, I am resisting the fast food damage, but X is going to hit for neutral damage, and my charge moves are going to be resisted. So, I'm going to shield the first move. Going to go for 3 Fury Cutters, fire off the Leaf Blade, throwing on good timing. Leaf Blade is going to be shielded by the opponent, and we can go for a second Leaf Blade. Now, Leaf Blade will get them very low. It won't KO, but actually, it grabs both shields, and now I swap. I catch the next X-Scissor onto my Zoroark. The opponent is going to stay in this matchup, but we can still get to a foul play here before they do reach the next charge move. Foul play, gets the KO. They come in with Credilli, but Zoroark just barely able to reach a last second Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball is going to deal huge damage. Unfortunately, doesn't quite get the KO there, but we can come in with Blacephalon. They will go for a Rock Tomb, debuff my attack stat, but Incinerate gets the full farm down. They're going to come in with a Dunsparce, and I make a pretty significant mistake here. I figured surely we're still going to be able to reach another one if we stay in, force them to throw, but no. Because I debuffed myself like just before the damage from the rollout registered, 2 more rollouts, ended up getting the full farm down, and oh my gosh, that did not go the way I wanted it to. But GG's to that trainer. That is the difficult thing about Blacephalon, especially with Incinerate as the fast move. It's really difficult to time your fast moves correctly because, well, you have very limited options of when you can throw charge moves. But anyways, into the next battle, going to see a Wigglytuff in the lead, going for Leaf Blade. Second one is going to connect here, and I'm actually going to swap into Blacephalon, realizing I will resist the charge move, so if they go for an Icy Wind, I don't really mind that too much. The opponent is now going to come in with a Kanto Marowak, but it is a non-shadow, so I am barely able to hang on. Go for Mind Blown. Mind Blown does huge damage there, despite being despite being debuffed by the Icy Wind. Now we put them into range where eventually I can Shadow Claw farm them down, but they actually swap out and into their Corviknight. They farmed up quite a lot of energy. I'm going to shield here. It is, of course, just an air cutter. Doesn't really make a difference. I needed to shield that move anyways. Otherwise, they just fully much that farming down. But the opponent is over farming here. That is absolutely fine with me. We can go for Shadow Ball number 2. Getting the KO there. They come back in with the Marowak, and they do have back-to-back charge moves now, I believe. But it doesn't really matter. We've now got the energy for the Foul Play. Foul Play will get the KO from this range. So, of course, Foul Play takes out the Marowak, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into the next battle. Greninja in the lead, so a great lead matchup for me. Opponent's going to say swap into Jumpluff. I'm quite slow to swap out there, but we do eventually swap into our Blacephalon. I'm going to shield this as the opponent is going to full send an Acrobatics. I'm now going to overfarm, farming up to back-to-back Mind Blowns, and then going for that first charge move. Mind Blown, gotta be no shielded. If they come back in with Greninja, I'm going to commit to a Shadow Ball. These Water Shurikens are doing insane damage. Shadow Ball grabs the first shield there from the opponent, and now we can come back in with our Kartana. So the opponent's actually going to overfarm, allow me to reach a Leaf Blade here, throwing on CMP. Leaf Blade grabs the final shield. At this point, I'm definitely going to save my final shield for Zoroark. They go for Night Slash. I'm going to swap out now as they swap into Primeape, and the opponent will be firing off that charge move. But again, we can no-shield this. Rage Fist is resisted damage. It does boost up their attack stat, but I'm still going to be fine. I can now shield the next charge move as they are boosted. Now I'm going to commit to a massive overfarm, farming up to at least a Foul Play and the Shadow Ball. Foul Play gets the KO there, and Shadow Ball is going to be resisted into this Greninja, but it doesn't matter. Shadow Ball gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We see Lucario in the lead, so I'm going to swap out straight away, but they're actually on Bullet Punch as the fast move, so I guess maybe I should have just stayed in with Kartana. It would have been a decent matchup for me, but either way, we can grab a shield advantage. They can fully Bullet Punch farm me down, but I'll put them into range where a single Incinerate will farm them down. So we come in with Blacephalon, and they will throw, you know what, I'm just going to respect this anyways, and they actually do full send a Shadow Ball. So that's good for me, of course, using the shield there. Let's see, the opponent's going to come in with Altaria, and I'm going to go straight for a Shadow Ball of my own. Shadow Ball, if this does connect, is going to do insane damage. It puts them into Incinerate farm down range. So I'm going to use my shield here. The opponent goes for Sky Attack, but they swap into Jellicent, and unfortunately, because they are faster to reach Shadow Ball this season, they barely outpace me. Shadow Ball gets the KO there. There's no point in me throwing here, of course. I can't take out the Jellicent anymore, as they still had a shield. And so unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there into the next battle. We see a Shadow Dust Noir in the lead. I'm actually going to swap out straight away, and the opponent going to bank some energy before coming in with Corviknight. Now, we've seen already they can tank a Shadow Ball. However, it does big damage, and actually, this Corviknight must have worse IVs than the previous one, because now I can shield just a single time and commit to a full farm down. So this point, we have a Foul Play already loaded. They're going to come in with a Credilli, and we actually already had a Shadow Ball loaded. So I'm going to go and full send the Shadow Ball right now. Shadow Ball is going to be shielded, but we reach yet another Shadow Ball into the Credilli here, throwing, it looks like, on CMP as well. Actually, I guess not, as they do swap out that matchup. We come in with Blacephalon just to get off big damage with the Incinerates. We put them into range where one Shadow Claw gets the farm down. The opponent, well, I thought they'd given up there, but they're actually going to throw a last second charge. It doesn't really make a difference here. Rock Tomb gets the KO, couple Fury Cutters from Kartana, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, and by the way, I believe this is a subscriber of mine, and this team is absolutely insane. Obviously, not a great lead matchup for me. We're going to swap into our Zoroark, and once again, going for the Foul Play, just barely outpacing them, but this is a Shadow Talonflame, so they deal even more damage with the Incinerates. I'm now going to wait out my switch clock here, come in with Blacephalon, and the opponent's actually going to swap into a second Fire and Flying type Shadow Pokemon in Moltres, and I was just like, what? Okay, well, if they're coming in with this, they've probably got a third one of these in the back as well. So Kartana actually just barely able to reach a Sacred Sword. Honestly, that's the best thing we can get out of this matchup. They come back in with the Shadow Talonflame. We've got back-to-back Mind Blown, so I'm just throwing the first one straight away. Mind Blown, not going to be shielded, as they do have a third one. It's going to be a Shadow Ho-Oh in the back. What on earth was that team? But GG's to that trainer. Very funny battle. And into the final battle, going to lead into Wigglytuff. They're going to swap out into Gourgeist. Probably should have actually come in with my Blacephalon there, but we just saw the typing, and I swapped instantly into Zoroark. But either way, Foul Play gets the KO right off the bat. That's absolutely fine with me. The opponent comes back in with the Wigglytuff. I guess we do save our Blacephalon for the Wigglytuff, because Kartana, after taking that non-stab Incinerate, is already at half HP. But we do obviously not deal a lot of damage into Wigglytuff there. We come in with the Kartana. I will be forced to shield here, as even though it's a Swift, it would do big damage. They swap into their final Pokemon, a Shadow Annihilate, but they throw on the worst possible timing, and that's going to allow a one shield full farm down from Blacephalon. We come out with 100 energy, but unfortunately, that means we're only going to reach 2 charge moves here, as Mind Blown gonna drastically drop the defense there. We can go for another Mind Blown. Mind Blown grabs the final shield. They fully charm farm me down there, but we can still just narrowly outpace them with Kartana. Leaf Blade gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.